I've built a bunch of solar systems now. Some work great, some were a pain, and some taught me lessons I probably should have learned before I spent the money. So if I was starting over today, these are the beginner solar mistakes I'd try to avoid. Not because I read them in a manual, because I've run into this stuff myself. Inverters that didn't act like the listing said, loads that were harder to start than expected, battery systems that needed more planning than I gave them, and wiring decisions that matter a lot more once the system gets bigger. So let's go into the 7 beginner mistakes I'd avoid today. The first mistake is buying parts before you know what you're trying to power. That sounds obvious, but it's easy to do. You see a deal on panels, you see a deal on an inverter, you find some batteries, and pretty soon you've got a pile of parts, but not really a system. The first thing I do is make a list of what I actually want the system to run. Not just I want solar, but solar for what? Lights in a shed, a refrigerator during an outage, a well pump, window unit, battery charger, maybe some Bitcoin miners. These are all very different systems, even if somebody calls all of them a solar setup. A few lights might only need a small system. A refrigerator needs to handle compressor startup. A well pump can hit hard when it starts. And Bitcoin miners are almost an opposite problem. They don't have a big startup surge like a motor, but they run a heavy load for hours. They're basically electric heaters that happen to make Bitcoin. So once you know the load, then you can start working backward into the inverter, the battery, the panels, and the wiring. How many watts does it use? How many hours per day does it run? Does it need power at night? Does it have a big startup surge? Or is it just a steady load that never lets up? That tells you whether you're buying a small backup system, a pump system, or something that needs to carry a heavy load for hours. Without that, you're just guessing. And guessing with solar usually costs money. The second mistake is thinking watts are watts. They're not. A freezer might only use a few hundred watts while it's running, but when that compressor starts, it can hit the inverter much harder for a short time. Same thing with pumps, refrigerators, air compressors, chop saws, and a lot of motor loads. That's where beginners get surprised. They buy a 3,000 watt inverter and think, well, my freezer only uses 300 watts. This should be easy. Then the lights flicker, the compressor growls, the inverter complains, or it just shuts down. The running watts were fine. The startup surge was the problem. So when you're sizing the inverter, don't just look at running load. Look at what has to start. A cheap inverter might run a load just fine once it's already spinning, but starting it is where it can struggle. The third mistake is undersizing wire, fuses, breakers, and disconnects. This is the part that isn't as exciting as panels and batteries, but it's the part that keeps the system from turning into a problem. Low voltage DC systems can pull a lot of current. At 12 volts, even a modest inverter can need some ugly current. At 24 volts, it gets better. At 48 volts, it gets better again. That's one reason I like higher voltage systems for larger builds. Almost all my systems run at 400 volts. You can move the same amount of power with less current. But whatever voltage you're using, the wire has to match the current. The fuse or breaker has to protect that wire, and the breaker has to be rated for the voltage, the current, and for DC use. Don't overlook that last one. A breaker isn't just a breaker. An AC breaker that works fine in a house panel is not safe on a DC battery circuit. DC can hold an arc much harder than AC, and if the breaker can't break that arc, you end up with fire, melted parts, or a breaker that keeps arcing even after you thought it was open. And another thing, don't assume every breaker should be used like a light switch. Opening a DC breaker under load can be violent if the system's pulling a lot of current, and the breaker isn't designed to interrupt that load safely. If you need a disconnect, use a properly rated DC disconnect. If you need overcurrent protection, use properly rated fuses or breakers. And if you're going to shut something down, reduce or remove the load first when possible. That's not just being overly cautious. That's how you avoid pulling an arc and having bad things happen. You don't want to throw random AC switches or cheap breakers into a DC battery system and just hope for the best. If you're new, This is one area where it's worth slowing down and double checking everything, because it works isn't the same as it's safe. The fourth mistake is treating battery location like an afterthought. A small battery box for a camping setup is one thing. A big battery bank is different. I don't like putting large battery systems inside a living space if I can avoid it. That doesn't mean every battery is automatically unsafe. It means I want space, ventilation, access, and some separation. Heat matters, moisture matters, fire risk matters, being able to get to the system matters. And if something ever does go wrong, I'd much rather have the problem in a shed, barn, or separate utility space than inside the house. This is one reason I like having dedicated battery and inverter areas. It's not just about making the system work, it's about thinking through what happens when something fails, because eventually something will fail. The fifth mistake is buying cheap equipment without knowing why. Now, I'm not against cheap equipment. I test cheap equipment all the time. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's a good value, sometimes it's just junk, but at least it makes for a good video. The mistake is building your whole plan around the cheapest thing you found online, then assuming it'll do everything the listing says. A budget inverter might be fine for a light-duty setup, but if you're trying to run compressors, pumps, tools, or a serious backup system, you need to be more careful. Before I'd trust it in a real system, I'd want to know more than big watt number in the listing. Can it handle surge loads? How much power does it burn just sitting there? Is it the right battery voltage for the system? Is it actually split phase if I need 120 and 240? And if it quits, can I get parts, documentation, or any kind of support? The cheap path can be fine if you know the trade-offs. But if you don't, cheap can turn into buying everything twice. The sixth mistake is ignoring idle consumption. This one sneaks up on you. An inverter can use power even when it's not doing much. And if you have a big inverter sitting there all night just to run one tiny load, that idle draw can eat a surprising amount of battery. On a large system, maybe that doesn't matter much. On a small system, it matters a lot. This is why bigger isn't always better. A giant inverter might look good on paper, but if your real load is small most of the time, you may be wasting power just keeping the inverter awake. So when you size a system, think about the actual use. Do you need a big inverter, or would a smaller inverter make more sense? Do you need power 24 hours a day, or only during the day? That question changes everything. For my solar mining setups, I'm not trying to mine through the night burning batteries. If you don't control the power controls you. The seventh mistake is starting too big. I know that sounds funny coming from me, because I'm always messing with bigger batteries, inverters, and high voltage systems. But for a beginner, starting too big can make everything harder. The bigger the system gets, the less forgiving it gets. A wiring mistake on a small test setup might just be annoying. A wiring mistake on a big battery bank can get expensive or dangerous real fast. More panels and more batteries don't just give you more power. They also give you more current, more stored energy, and less room to be careless. A small test system can teach you a lot. Run some lights, run a fan, run a freezer for a few hours. Watch what the voltage does, watch what the inverter does, and measure the current. Learn how the battery behaves. Then scale up once you understand what's happening. That's a lot better than buying a truckload of mismatched parts and trying to figure it out afterwards. Solar is easy to learn when the mistakes are small. So those are the 7 beginner solar mistakes I'd avoid today. Buying parts before knowing the load, ignoring startup surge, undersizing wire and protection, putting big batteries in bad locations, buying cheap equipment without a plan, ignoring idle consumption, and starting too big. None of this means you need the most expensive gear, and it doesn't mean you need to overcomplicate everything. It just means you need to understand what the system is supposed to do before you start spending money. Start with the load, work backwards from there. And don't assume because something turns on, it's built right. That's where solar projects can turn into problems. If this helped, give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're not. And if you're buying equipment, don't forget to use our signature solar coupon code in the description. Until the next one, adios.